When Marshall McLuhan was asked, isn't television itself primarily a visual medium? He responded, no, it's quite the opposite, although the idea that TV is a visual extension is an understandable mistake. Unlike film, television is primarily an extension of the sense of touch rather than of sight, and it is the tactile sense that demands the greatest interplay of all the senses.
TV ain't no tactile.
The secret of TV's tactile power is that the video image is one of low intensity or definition, and thus, unlike film, offers no detailed information about specific objects, but instead involves the active participation of the viewer. The TV image is a mosaic mesh not only of horizontal lines, but of millions of tiny dots, of which the viewer is physiologically able to pick up only 50 or 60, from which he shapes the image. Thus, he is constantly filling in vague and blurry images, bringing himself into in-depth involvement with the screen, and acting out a constant creative dialogue with the iconoscope. The contours of the resultant cartoon-like image are fleshed out within the imagination of the viewer, which necessitates great personal involvement and participation. The viewer, in fact, becomes the screen, whereas in film, he becomes the camera. By requiring us to constantly fill in the spaces of the mosaic mesh, the iconoscope is tattooing its message directly on our skins.
Did you ever notice that your hands don't stick together? You can hold things and let go. It's the fact that you can hold and let go, which is the essence of the tactile function, or the tactile sense. It's the interplay, the movement within the gap, that is the essence of tactility. Tactility is not really a sense. It's the interplay of all the senses. It's the part of our brains that coordinates the input from the other sensory data, the eye, ear, nose, foot data, the visual, acoustic, kinetic, olfactory data. So tactility is the interplay of senses. All our media were extensions of each one of these senses, but with television you have the extension of the interplay of the senses, because television is eye, ear, movement, and even smell if you're looking at the advertising. The interplay of tactility is in television. So tactility is essentially nothing. Television is the medium that is nothing. It is light through. So that's what we mean when we say television is tactile.
This is a hand and a foot walking down the street.
And what's that right there?
A TV with hands and feet coming out of it.
McLuhan says the first reference to TV is in Shake ESP Ear.
I say M-O, M-O-P, M-O-P-P. Come with us through melody to the four corners of the earth. Hear music exotic and familiar spring from the amazing hands of correspondent on a musical adventure.
Corla Pandit said that television has tremendous potential to teach, but it has also the power to rob us of freedom on a very fundamental level. We have got to put soul back into this robot.
Corla Pandit, who performed on television in the 1950s, is making this statement in 1988. Unfortunately, there is no television in the late 80s. It is more accurately described as a mixed corporate media liquid crystalline flow input. That is where we were in the late 80s. But taking what he said, that television had a tremendous potential to teach, he's referring to the content. But television itself was a teaching machine already in the 50s, altering society and creating a tactile bias. If you think of losing your tactile bias as losing your freedom, then you're projecting literate values from the previous century on a new expansion of consciousness, i.e. an extension of tactility. So it's hardly a loss of freedom.
Every once in a while, can he talk? And they said, and Klaus would never talk. And it went on. And then of course, day or each year got more mysterious, and so they never would let me talk. At 900 live shows, we never spoke.
McLuhan wrote in The Interior Landscape in 1969, "The cover of TV Guide painted by Salvador Dali depicted two thumbnails as TV screens. This is pure poetry." Dali immediately presents the fact that TV is a tactile mode of perception.
Here Dali successfully delineates the characteristics of the tactile qualities of the TV image. This is done in the late 60s. However, McLuhan had spelled out these characteristics 17, 18 years earlier. So it's not extraordinary that the qualities of the 1950s tactile environment become conscious among leading artists in the late 60s. But what artist is painting the tactile effects of the satellite interplay of icon, contour, and interval at this point? Marshall McLuhan is speaking it, but is there an artist painting it?
TV became what it was always meant to be, not a resonant and wise medium, not serving some lofty connective purpose, but just an extension of the day-to-day urgency of who we are.